So another episode of Criminal Minds, which might be near to the end of it. I will carry on watching it, being like, is there any episode? But I don't think there is. Realistically, there might be a couple of notable ones, not character-specific ones. But the one that I'm doing today is one that I feel like is really fun. Because I think it's a basic one. Besides not having the crime beforehand, or at least some hints, like I think the last one I mentioned, which I didn't like, but the one thing that I think a lot of sometimes stuff like this has is some stuff connecting to hints to what happened, which usually would be, I've read a lot, but it's like, okay, the crime's already happened, we need to go there, we need to be there now. So I don't think you would think about why didn't they show the crime. Okay, the crime's happened, a child is missing, oh no, what do we do? Okay. This is similar to another case, okay? There's a case of these things, okay? So there's probably one person connected to this. Okay, we need to figure out, they found the guy who did it. Weirdly enough, there's some connections that don't add up. There was a mess in one room while he wasn't in that room. There was a connection to this thing, but that's not really how it's really odd. There's connections to the same thing before, but not afterwards. It's odd, strange to see. And when you look into it, even himself, which I would like to point out, said the most lie ever. Because obviously this is a child predator. That's the point of the show. He's a bad guy who does bad things. And even he, in this episode, says he's too young. One, what the too young range should be below 18. If that. Like, actually no, 18. 18, 20. You're a guy in his 30s, the minimum age should be like 28 or 30. But I'm not going to comment on that because I'm a person who doesn't date. So, but at the very least, above 20. But I find it interesting when you realise this one kid, had nothing to do with the other cases because there was two boys who were also missing and then I think found dead or presumed dead. And those two things of having them being like, oh, one boy, one of their children killed another one of them, with the idea of like, we don't want to have another one of our children taken away, is so. And the idea that they're protecting them whilst one thing happened, which is the child in the throat had plain parts stuffed down it, which is, I am going to probably put a message being like, warning to, I don't know what to put under this, warning to this is intense on the front. I haven't done it by this point, obviously. But the idea of throwing this, oh, it's this guy, I've been doing this, is interesting because you don't think it's going to be the other one of their children. And it shows, obviously, it shows that this is so, and I like the idea that one of them's like, who wins in the end about this? Like, we could have just arrested him and it could have been fine. It's like, it's not about winning. It's so effed. And at the end of the day, you go through the whole thing and you catch the bad guy. And at the same time, you feel like you've lost. Because what happened was so. And this one event, which started with a kid accidentally, like, I don't make monoplanes, and I respect anyone who makes monoplanes, the amount of detail it takes, but the amount of that does, and then you do that to it, is so messed up. I would say that this is interesting because the more you ask, the more you don't want to know. And that horror of realizing who's really there, who's really at fault, terrifies. Because you don't want to imagine someone that age capable of doing that. Obviously, some things turn out later that hiding in the woods, faking the crime scene, and certain other activities. All of those. Actually, no, the bodies were found. I said they were missing in action, they weren't. They definitely were found. They were found in a forest, which they put them in some forest. All of those actions were done by an adult. You find out which is the chief of police, which is one, to arrest this guy, and two, to avoid suspicion on the families, which just makes it worse. And the fact that the parents were willing to lie about it makes it so much worse. It makes sense. In their heads, even they say, like, we've lost one child, we're not going to lose another. But when you see their reaction to the fact of the planes, which still is fucked up, they are horrifying that they are hiding someone like this. I would say have a good night, but have a decent night, because that's horrifying to think about. So yeah. Sorry for ruining your night. Also, I realised to mention this, and I might actually mention this with some time I have left, because one of the things I've realised I said at the beginning, and it didn't come up with, so I'm going to bring it back in, is the one thing that I mentioned didn't happen, which at this point you see a lot of, is you see the crime, or at least you see an aspect of the crime. Even the one with Rossi, which had a crime in the background, which you never fully see. You see a nightmare interpretation of it. So there's a lot of evidence of, here's the crime, here's it happening. The only exception are two-parters, where you won't, because it's like the ones that I talk about, good two-parters or good this, good that. You don't see a reenactment because they're still dealing with the case beforehand. So there was already a reenactment in the previous episode. So because of that, you didn't get one. And like I said before, I'm just going to repeat myself, you might not suspect much because, okay, it's a simple case, this happens, we've seen it before, we don't probably need a reenactment of this happening again. But when you've realised what you were told was wrong, maybe there's a reason, and when you start questioning what this specific case happens to the bigger case of the two missing child that definitely was by this one person, you realise that there's one thing, this one point that was connected to the past of like the case. This one child connected to the previous two childs might not be the connection point, and we don't really see how the case happens. So maybe it's not how we think. Again, it all brings up questions, and you might actually question why that's happened, and you will be smarter than I have, because like thinking before, probably just cut it out because of the timing, because there might be a thing like that. But no, there was a reason. It's so interesting. Again, questioning what really happened makes you want to question it less and less and less. Again, sorry for making the night more horrifying about this episode. It's one of the episodes, like another one, that deal with these things, and I feel like no one wins. Even one that I think I'm going to talk about, but it is so interesting about all of this. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you do get a good night though. And for the second time, because I actually forgot a section, good night.